the director of the Bechtel International. I'm the director of the Bechtel International Center. We are the office that issues your visa documents. We're actually a center that provides really a home away from home for our international students. I'm going to turn that over to Elsa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elsa Gontram. I'm the Associate Director of Bechtel International Center, and I've been emailing with some of you, I know things are pretty tough over there. Yeah.
And my name is Mario Mihalcic. I'm one of 4 international student advisors here at the Bechtel International Center. We will be assisting you after you have been admitted and started your classes at Stanford University, when Elsa hands you off to us.
And Hannah.
Hi, hi everyone. My name is Hannah. I'm sure that many of you already saw my name on your visa document. So I'm here. So if you need any help with your visa document, I'm here. Good to see you all.
Yeah. So, as I said, I don't really know where to start this meeting other than say that we're all sort of so worried and concerned about what's happening in India, and we see reports, and some of us have experienced the same grief and loss that you might have. I hope you're all doing okay. I hope you're all keeping safe. I hope you all have your vaccinations done. I hope that life is keeping you well. Our goal today was to really connect with you, find out how you're doing, find out and talk to you about your visa process and answer as many questions as we can. So I know that we have a chat function. We will take your questions, and Mario and Hannah will help us as we try to answer those. In terms of what we've done so far, I know that we've issued many visa documents for you, your I-20s and your DS-2019s. And we've sent many of you your CVIS ID numbers so you can start the process of applying for your visas. We also know that US embassies and consulates are either closed or functioning at a very limited level at this point. So we don't know what's happening in the different cities in India, of course.
Melanie, can I interrupt you for just 1 second? Somebody has just reported that they can't hear us, that we're muted. I don't see that switch is on. Hannah, can you see that? Oh, some people
says, Bharat says, I can hear you. I know that Mario, are you muted? Yeah, people.
I thank you for people responding in chat. I do see. So I guess the student who wrote to me and said that he couldn't hear me, perhaps it's something specific to you because most everyone else can hear us. So thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. And this will be, we are recording this and we will make this available, right?
Yeah.
Elsa, Hannah,
yes,
we'll
recording. Yep.
So
go ahead,
so we were talking about visa documents and visas and your ability to come to Stanford in time to start your programs. So you may have heard fairly recently that Stanford will allow for undergraduate students, and I don't know how many undergraduate students are in the room with us today, that if undergraduate students cannot make it here in time for the start of classes, then there will be some offerings made so that students can start their programs remotely. For graduate students, I think much of it depends on your individual departments about what they will allow. And we will encourage you, as things become clearer, to reach out to your departments and see what is available to you and whether you want to start classes remotely or you want to defer for a quarter or for the year. But really, I think perhaps we should open it up to questions and hear from you so we can understand a little bit about what you're thinking about and how we can be helpful. Is there anything we should say before we turn it over to our questions? Elsa, Hannah, Mario?
Well, I don't know whether people are aware of the national interest exception.
Thank you for
know-
bringing that up.
Yeah, I know, of course, that you need a valid visa in order to qualify for the national interest exception. But on April 30th, when the travel ban in India was implemented by the United States, they also exempted F and J students and exchange visitors from that ban. But unfortunately, you need a valid visa in order to qualify. So that it's sort of a catch-22 here for many of you who are incoming from India, because the consular services have been basically reduced to only emergency services for US citizens at this point. We know that. And we know that that's tough. And to try to go to a third country, and it is, yes, thank you for someone who mentioned in chat, it is only available for programs starting after August 1st. And we got confirmation of that this morning. So if your program starts before August 1st, you'll have to go to a third country and stay there and document your stay for 14 days before you can seek entry to the United States. That is unfortunately the case with this NIE.
But we also do know that there are many countries, I think over 24 countries, that are at this time restricting travel from India. So we understand that it's a challenge, regardless of which direction you're hoping to travel through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we can start receiving questions. And Mario, would you mind answering those if they come up here in the chat?
So
Sure.
far, it seems to be national interest exemption. Oh, go ahead, Mario, you start.
Sure. There's well, just to stay on the topic of NIE, there's a student asking how do you apply for an NIE?
So the NIE is done through either a consulate or a port of entry. And the port of entry is a little bit more complicated, I think, because you have to reach out to the port of entry where you will be landing and go through a process with that port of entry. And the processing times for that are, I have heard from our immigration counsel this morning, quite long. So the way that most of our students do it, I think 99%, is go through the consulate or embassy. And when they get their visa stamps, they're also given this national interest exception with a 30-day window in which to enter the country. That is 30 days before their start date.
What is the latest start date for the fall quarter for international students to come to Stanford and start the fall quarter on campus? That would be
So
October 1st.
Yeah, but the date on the I-20 is September 20th. And if students are not able to get here by September 20th, for graduate students, they really should be reaching out to the departments to make sure that an October 1 date is okay to enter.
Yeah, for freshmen,
Yeah.
it's different, right? Freshmen will be required to be on campus approximately September 12th. We haven't confirmed that date for ISO, but we think that's the start date for our international student orientation. And move-in date and the time at which you can move into campus also has yet to be determined by approaching Stanford and NSO.
What about the UK? Do students coming from the UK also have a travel ban and need the 14 days in another country?
So this is an interesting thing about this NIE. So there are a group of countries a few weeks ago who were listed as having the NIE applied to them, even though travel bans currently existed: China, South Africa, Iran, and Brazil. And then India was added later. And all of those countries have an NIE with this peculiar August 1st start date attached to it in terms of eligibility and qualification. The Schengen countries and the UK and Ireland have had an NIE applied to them or offered to them last year. And they have quite different guidance around their NIE. So the NIE, as far as we understand it now, and we're seeking clarification about this, they are perfectly eligible to seek an NIE at any point, regardless of date, if you're from the Schengen countries, UK or Ireland. Different from the second group.
Given the current situation, would you recommend going for the third national citizen route, i.e. going to a different country and get the visa and then use the NIE to fly to the USA?
That's a tough question for us. It's hard for us to make that call for you because there's pros and cons, right? We do know a lot of students doing that this year, right, Shalini?
Yep.
And Hannah, you've heard that too, right? But I think there's, risks you take in doing that. You could be stuck in administrative processing, in which case you'd be in that third country for a while. Yeah, you have to also ask whether that consulate or embassy is accepting third country national applications. Sometimes they bar them. So there's a lot of questions around that.
Plus, with the growing number of countries that are imposing a travel ban from India, I think that it's such a rapidly changing situation that you need to be really careful before you exercise that option.
We touched upon this, but just if you could clarify, a student is asking whether we received clarification on whether pre-August 1st students will qualify for the NIE.
So sorry to be taking up a lot of airtime here because I just conferred with our immigration counsel about this, but we've just found out this morning that in fact, anyone with a start date before August on or after August 1st will not qualify for an NIE and will have to go to a third country and remain there for 14 days before they're eligible to enter the United States.
And a note from a student: both my biometric and in-person interview appointments got canceled just today, and the first available date is currently showing February 22nd. The visa situation seems grim. A couple of vaccine
Sharing
questions.
that, right? I said thank you to the student for sharing that, because sometimes we don't really know what's happening on the ground. And when you give us this information, at least we have that to share with other students who may be wondering. So thank you.
Yeah, one option for the student whose appointment was scheduled for February is to request an expedite. And you can circle back with your department and request a letter that will expedite your appointment. That doesn't mean you're going to get an appointment before your start date at Stanford, but it's worth a try. And so your department will be able to produce that letter for you.
And if you're an undergraduate student, then you should send us the request, and we will forward that to the admissions office, who will issue that expedite letter for you.
Couple of vaccine questions. On the vaccination, will Stanford accept the AstraZeneca vaccine? None of the US cleared vaccines are available here in India.
So our understanding so far is that Stanford is still making a decision about which vaccines they will accept. They're also looking at plans to give students the vaccinations that will be accepted here. So will it be safe for students to get a second set of vaccinations? All those questions are currently being explored. And once we have some information, we'll make sure to send that information out.
And would all undergrads be needing to get vaccinated? This is because India is administering the vaccine to all adults above 18, and I would be still 17 upon entry to the US.
Stanford will make sure that anybody who is unvaccinated gets their vaccines once they come to Stanford. What's not decided yet is how the quarantining will happen once you get here, and you need to get, you have those 14 days of quarantining. So those decisions and planning is happening now. We're waiting for final word.
Are students allowed to take courses remotely without being in F1 status, having an F1 visa?
At this time, yes, right, Mario, Elsa, Hannah, with the guidance that just came out on the 26th of April, the students will still have the possibility of enrolling remotely. That said, the final decision about whether you will be able to enroll remotely depends on your department. Some departments require you to be here on campus in order to start your programs, and some will allow you to take some remote classes, which I understand will be offered for a short while. So maybe just the fall quarter, but going forward into the next quarter, that option might not be available. The best thing for you to do would be to check with your department.
And just to touch just really briefly upon the work authorization, curricular practical training, which is a work authorization that is a benefit of the F1 status. To be eligible for that, you have to be in the US studying full-time for 3 quarters, meaning that you're in F1 status. So if you start out remotely for the fall quarter and then come for the winter and spring in F1 status, you would not be eligible for the curricular practical training work authorization for the summer, which is what would allow you to do an off-campus internship or employment. I know for a lot of you, you might not even have the ability to come in for the fall, but just wanted to put that out there as well.
Yeah, it's helpful for people who are trying to make decisions about whether to defer, right?
There's a student who's asking, my department anthropology stated that the policy of in-person attendance for graduate students is a university-wide policy. I was wondering if the School of Humanities and Sciences or the university itself would be willing to reconsider this policy given the number of graduate students who might not be able to join in person. Deferral by a quarter will significantly complicate achieving milestones and measuring state of academic progress.
So that question is being examined quite closely. We heard just yesterday that most graduate programs are not going to allow the remote learning, but there may be some who will. So I think the university is considering these things quite seriously, but also looking at the resources they have in order to provide remote classes to all students in all departments. So once again, there is no black and white rule here, so you should be checking with your department.
A couple of I-20 questions. Is it
Maybe
possible
Hannah
to,
could, yeah.
oh, sure. Is it possible to expedite the I-20 processing? The student says they submitted their documents on April 29th and understand that it could take 3 weeks.
So if you, so we're processing the documents as soon as possible, and especially if you are requesting from India, we expedite the request. So please email us if you haven't received your document or CBIS ID yet. And hopefully by kind of early next week, you'll be able to get your CVIS ID.
Hannah, can you explain a little bit what we're doing, what our process is in sending the CVIS ID number and following it up with the document?
Sure. So I know a lot of you guys already received your documents, but just to tell you the process, you submit your request in Bechtel Connect with all the required documents, and we process your document. And as soon as it is issued by CVIS, then we email your CVIS ID so that you can schedule an appointment, visa appointment. And in the meantime, we FedEx your document. So with the CVIS ID, you can schedule a visa appointment. So you can go ahead as soon as you receive your CVIS ID.
Thanks, Hannah.
Yeah, I would just ask, a lot of people are requesting digital copies of the I-20 through the email that we have. And I just want to say that requesting a digital I-20 actually slows us down, because the most important thing for you to have immediately is your CVIS number. And with that number, you can pay your CVIS fee and make your appointment. So you don't really need the document right away. What we'll send you the hard copy, and you can sign it and scan it and make your own digital copy. But for us to have to produce both the hard copy and the digital copy for you does slow us down. So we ask you not to request that unless you urgently need it for an appointment that's coming up in the next few days after you receive your email. So that's the exception to that request.
There's a graduate student who's asking basically where they can confirm how much they have to show for proof of funding.
Hannah, you want to answer that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? Sorry, Maria.
A graduate student is asking basically where they can confirm how much to show for proof of funding.
So on our website, I'm going to just put it in the chat. On our website, there is a table that is linked to the grad admissions office. So you have to do some kind of calculation. So I'll put it in the chat to the page.
Do they show proof of funding for 12 months or for 9 months?
So most of the cases is 9 months, but if you are your program is 12 months of program, then sometimes you have to show the 12 months of funding.
Can undergraduates take their first quarter online if visa processing isn't completed by the time the fall quarter starts?
I understand that that is true. I think the offerings that you'll have in your first quarter will be the very basic core curriculum that you must fulfill. So Frosh can start the first quarter remote, and you should be getting some more information about that soon.
There's another student who's reporting that visa appointments in 2022 are not available.
In 2022?
Yes.
We're in 2021 now. All of 2022?
They might not be open yet or available yet. Whenever visa services resume in India, do you know if F and J students are able to apply for emergency expedited appointments, since there will be long wait times?
You can try. The first thing you're going to have to do, though, is make that appointment whenever you can get it. And when you get it, then you can reach out to the Stanford department, or if you're a freshman, reach out to Bechtel. And then you can get that expedite letter to support your request for an earlier appointment.
Do students with a start date after August 1st have to apply for an NIE, or do they automatically qualify?
Our understanding is you automatically qualify through the consulate.
Do we need to get anything specific from GSB or Bechtel to be able to apply for the NIE, or is it up to the consulate officer?
It's a consular processing thing.
I am an MSX student. Our program start date is July 7th. Is it possible for Bechtel to provide us another I-20 carrying start date July 7th? This will allow us to qualify for the NIE, and we will still be able to make it to our program by July 1st.
I think the
The
students
NIE
probably
of-
asking, yeah, a
Sorry,
July
go-
7th I-20 will not qualify for an NIE. So the date there is August 1, August 1 or later.
Yeah.
And we've had this discussion with
Sorry, this is Ramanuj.
we've had a conversation with the MSX folks, and they're not able to change the date of a few I-20s or for a few students to August 1, because that would mean that they would have to change the date for the entire program and push the program back. So I understand that we will not be able to issue an August 1 start date for MSX students. I mean, really sorry.
I had deferred last year due to the pandemic, hoping things would have been better by now. With Stanford's policy of opting for one-time deferral only, as told by the EE department, would there be a possible exception this time, i.e. another deferral?
Only EE can answer that question. So sorry.
If an online option is not available with my graduate program and I'm not able to make it this fall, would my acceptance/admission be deferred or canceled?
Once again, a question for the department. You'll find that Stanford is a very decentralized place. And so many departments, all departments make their own decisions about deferring and what their plans are in terms of students not being able to get here. So do check in with them.
There's a lot of concern from students about getting emergency or expedited appointments when visa appointments become available,
Yeah.
and what the university can do to help support students get those appointments.
Yeah, the university can offer the letter of support for an expedited appointment, but I mean, the reality is that the post-admissions, as they're called, are basically not functioning for anything other than emergency appointments at this time. So it's really based on the pandemic and not being able to have US staff in place to do the processing at these consulates and the embassy in India.
Student is asking, when you say speak to the department, who is this? Would it be the PhD office or the PhD liaison professor? Please, could you clarify? I don't, maybe we could answer that in general. When we talk about speaking to the department, who are we referring to?
Who are we referring to, Mario? I guess it would be if students were to reach out to a faculty member or whichever contact they have for the department, that would at least start the conversation.
Yeah, from whomever I'm not sure who you received your letter of admission from, but if it did come from your department, then respond to that and ask who's the best person to help you with an expedite letter.
A student is suggesting it might be helpful if Stanford wrote to the American Embassy requesting that visa requests of all Stanford students may be expedited. Right now, the next visa appointment dates are February 2022, but the embassy takes requests for expediting the interview 60 days before the date of departure. If the consulate service is open in July or August, they could do the interviews then. An official request from Stanford would help, since those who already hold visas are permitted to enter under national interest exception. The new students should be treated similarly.
So I would say that our government affairs office is working with the Department of State and encouraging them to expedite visas for all international students. So that conversation is happening on the, on the Hill. I do not think that that the Department of State would give Stanford, specifically Stanford students, a high priority. I think it would be for all international students. But you should know that there's a fair amount of advocacy work that is happening now to make that possible?
For Indians who are in the US at the moment, but on a different visa, can the conversion be done by change of status since travel is hard? I understand this takes time, but given the circumstances, would it now be recommended?
Margaret, you should answer that.
Go ahead, Mario. Change of status
So-
in the country.
Sure. When we talk about change of status, as the student noted, it is a long and difficult process. And so our advice is always, if you're going to do that, you should do that in consultation with an immigration attorney. It is, I mean, obviously it is difficult to get an I-20 now and travel to your home country and apply for the visa and come back in F1 status. So it might be something to consider, but if you do, again, our recommendation is that you do it with an immigration attorney, because you'll have to be maintaining your status under your current immigration status, and that might not always be possible, or you might not have the flexibility to be a full-time student and maintain your current status. And then if your current status ends and you haven't been changed over to the F1 status, you'll have to have a bridge status between those two. And so again, it's kind of fraught with challenges, and it is a very long process. And so if it is something that you are considering, you should do so by talking to an immigration attorney first.
I do want to point out something about the NIE too, and I was just thinking about it when Mario was speaking. So it's not targeting, or the travel bans rather, are not targeting Indian nationals or South African nationals. It's any foreign national who's been in those countries. So for example, if you were in this country right now and you are an Indian national and you wanted to travel to another country, don't think that the travel ban applies to you because you've been in the United States for this time. It's only if you've been in those countries that the travel ban applies to you. I just wanted to make that clear. It's not based on national identity.
GSB MBA students become eligible to apply for emergency visa on July 10 since classes start on September 10. Do you think that on July 10th, when we ask for emergency student visa, they would be able to give us a visa by September 10? Were most students able to do this last year?
So there is no guarantee. Let me just read that question again. Can you read it again, Mario?
Sure. GSB MBA students become eligible to apply for emergency visa on July 10, since classes start on September 10. Do you think that on July 10th, when we ask for emergency student visa appointment, they will be able to give us a visa by September 10th? Were most students able to do this last year?
I think that's the question that's impossible to answer. We really cannot predict what will happen. I think that you can try, and we will all hope for the best, but we really don't know. And I think if you look at last year's situation was so different from this year's situation that I don't think that you can connect the two. It's just a different world today, right?
There's another student who's reporting only February appointments were available in India till now. However, today I was able to book an October slot. What are the
Great.
chances that an expedition request will be granted since the embassies are still closed?
What are the
Well,
chances?
Don't give up on your quest for an expedite if you've got an October appointment, because you have good grounds to argue that you need to get to campus before September 20th. So keep checking, and when it becomes available, have that expedite letter ready.
It would also be nice to know which consulate, which embassy are you able to get this appointment at? So maybe we can share that information around others as well. So Raghav, maybe if you would put that in chat, people would know where you've been able to apply for a visa and get an appointment in October. Okay, go ahead, Mario.
I have received my CVIS ID week and a half back, but I haven't received any information around the I-20 delivery. When can I expect to receive that information?
So I already replied to the student, so you can email me so that I can check the status of the shipment.
We kind of talked about this in terms of a change of status. A hypothetical question. I have a valid B1, B2 visa. If the travel ban is lifted on all non-immigrant visa, but if I couldn't get a student visa in time, can I enter US on B1, B2 and apply for change of status to F1 at
No,
university? Yeah, because the B1 and B2 don't allow for study, so you wouldn't be able to study anyway while you're waiting for the change of status. And that just wouldn't be done in a timely manner.
yeah, and besides that, change of status applications from B2 to F1 are rarely granted because the consular officer, the USCIS feels like you are misleading them as to your intention of coming to the United States.
It looks like persistence is going to be the key to getting an appointment. One student reports Mumbai, there are no appointments open at all. And another student responded, there are a few slots periodically. I think Mumbai had September, October slots today or yesterday. So it sounds like you might have to be checking every day for these visa appointments. But then you could get an appointment and it could get canceled too. So I have a valid F1 visa with Stanford, used it for summer school, which expires in 2023. I hope I can enter the US with that visa. I also hope I can stay there even past 2023 with it. Do correct me if I'm wrong. So you're right. If you have an F1 visa that has not expired, you can use that for entry along with your valid I-20. And then you'll also want to bring with you your prior I-20 from the school that issued that you were able to obtain that F1 visa, along with your admission letter to Stanford University.
So the tricky thing about that situation is you don't have an NIE attached to your visa, right? So if you're coming from India, you'll still need to get that NIE. And I've just written the Immigration Council this morning about that particular question. So if you send me that question, depending on what, I don't know whether you're a grad or an undergrad, but send it to either new international _grads at stanford.edu or new international students at stanford.edu. And I will answer that question specifically.
My passport needs to be renewed as it expires this October, and that process is delayed due to COVID. Will this affect my I-20 application?
No. So we don't need any passport specific information when we process your I-20. The only time I would tell you to hold off in applying for an I-20 until you get your new passport is if you were changing your name. So that would happen if you were getting married, for example. But otherwise, go ahead and apply now with your old passport.
An admissions question, important to note too. Apart from visas, as the Indian CBSE exam board has indefinitely postponed examinations for grade 12 and exam results might not come before fall, would Stanford still allow Indians to start classes this fall?
I think that would be a question for the admissions office. So reach back to them. I don't know what their policy is at this point. Does anybody here? No. So I think you need to reach out to the admissions office.
If we consider going to a third country for obtaining a visa, then in your experience currently, which countries have granted students F1 visa?
So we are hearing, go ahead, Mario, go ahead.
Oh, No, that's fine.
Well,
ahead.
we've heard from Chinese students that they're going to Singapore. So I don't know whether Singapore is still accepting third country national applications. And I don't know whether they have a travel ban with India, do they, Shalini?
I think they do.
Yeah. So it's a matter of just going around the puzzle of the globe and trying to, and if you have the means to get to another country and are willing to stay there for a while, and yeah.
So I'm just jumping in for a moment, Mario. I
Sure.
see a lot of questions about requesting the Department of State to allow online interviews. And I do want everyone to know that we have a we have a dedicated office in Washington, DC, our Office of Government Affairs, and they, along with all other universities, are pushing for the best possible options for students. So if we hear that other universities are pushing for online visa interviews, you should know that Stanford is with that group that is doing all the advocacy work in DC.
Another student reports, I got on October 8th appointment at Mumbai consulate. The slots opened around 4:30 p.m. Keep checking actively. Today, 20 to 30 slots popped open at Mumbai.
Wow. And I'm
Great.
a little bit.
That's terrific.
If we do make it to Stanford, are you planning to conduct classes online, in a hybrid mode, or in person?
Mostly in person.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Shalini. The expectation is that everybody's in person. All classes are in person.
If the U.S. embassies would only be issuing F1 and J1 visas, then would that mean that our families who would be traveling to the U.S. with a B1, B2 visa would not be able to drop us off at university this fall? In terms of traveling to Stanford from the airport, could Stanford arrange transportation? This is a two.
So both of those are not Bechtel specific questions. We know that they're still working out the protocol for moving in this fall, but it's unlikely that parents will be able to come on campus to help their children move into their dorm rooms, but there'll be plenty of Stanford people to help you do that. And what was the second question, Mario?
Does Stanford help with arranging transportation from the airport to the university?
No, we do not, but we have, I think, on approaching Stanford for Frosh, and then what's the website for the graduate students, Shalini, for coming to campus? There's a whole slew of options for arranging your transportation from the airport. Super Shuttle is a big one that lots of Stanford students use. You have to book it ahead of time and they'll wait for you and your flight and take you to campus. It's about a half an hour car ride from the airport to campus. So if you take an Uber, for example, it's about $40, $50, depending on the time of day. Cab can be about $100.
And so we also suggest that you fly into San Francisco Airport. So when you make your super shuttle reservation, make sure that you use SFO as your starting point.
Yeah, Hannah's put some stuff in chat, I think, and someone else too. Yeah.
I'm just stopping my video because I need to charge my computer one moment. Go ahead.
I currently have a Mumbai Newark SF flight with a 4 to 5 hour layover in Newark. Will it be a problem if I end up taking this flight? Will I be required to quarantine after I land in the US for the first time?
So you're just go ahead, Mario.
I don't imagine they would sell you a flight ticket that goes from Newark to SF if you had to quarantine.
No, and you're just in transit. You're not leaving the airport. You're just transferring to another flight. You're transferring from an international flight to a domestic flight, but it's still just a transfer.
Biggest problem is that you're in New Jersey.
Hey, Mario.
Yeah.
There's also a Newark across the bay from us here too. Just
Yes.
come to Palo Alto, you'll learn that we have a Newark here. It's much smaller. couple of deferral topics, some suggestions from a student. Can Stanford as a university consider offering flexible deferrals of admissions with the student at the center of it? And talking about how it's stressful that these deferral decisions are being made department by department instead of as
Yep.
a university as a whole.
Yeah, you'll find that, as I said earlier, Stanford is so decentralized that it's it has a very long history of being decentralized, and departments just need to make their own decisions because academic programs are so different and the requirements are so different. So I think it would be convenient for everyone if there was one decision made, but it really is not the way that Stanford works, unfortunately.
And in your opinion, when would be the ideal time to check with our departments for deferrals if visas look unlikely?
I think the best thing would be to find out as soon as possible so that you know what the options are and then you can make your own decisions. But reach out to departments now. They're still, because the situation has been evolving so rapidly and changing so rapidly, departments are also trying to figure out how they want the fall quarter to go. So write to them, let them know that you're concerned, and let them know that you need to know quickly. And I think that would be a good way to move forward.
If arriving students have had both the rounds of vaccination, is a 14-day quarantine still mandatory? In which case, when would you suggest would be a good time to reach San Francisco?
So all that guidance is being discussed and formulated now. So you will find out over the course of the summer, hopefully not too late, and you'll be able to plan accordingly.
And there's multiple layers that go into this guidance that comes from Stanford University, including our county, Santa Clara County, which also kind of dictates and provides guidance to quarantining, as well as the state of California. So there's a lot of stuff that the university has to work through when they're coming up with this guidance. Is the Bechtel office open for visiting hours? Can one come and meet someone in person if they are vaccinated?
Not yet. We've been closed since March of 2020, closed in the sense of not being physically at the center, but we're all working remotely, and we find that it's been quite successful to meet with students on Zoom. So we recommend that you meet us in a different way than being physically present.
We have obviously California time afternoon advising Monday through Thursday. And the way that those appointments work to talk to an advisor in person through Zoom, you schedule that appointment and those appointments become available the day before the afternoon advising session. So for example, if you wanted to meet with somebody on Monday afternoon, those appointments become available on Sunday, just after midnight California time. And then Tuesday appointments open up on Monday. So if you show up online on Sunday to try to schedule something for Wednesday, you won't see any Wednesday appointments available. The only appointments that would be available are for Monday. And then we also have Thursday and Friday morning group advising, which starts at 9 a.m. California time. And there's no appointment necessary for that. You show up and ask your question. Usually a lot of your questions are pretty general anyway, and so we're able to answer a lot of your questions in group advising as well.
Yeah, Hannah just put that in chat. Thanks, Hannah.
So we've gone through the chat and looked at the topics and the
I think
questions that students have.
There's one that says there has been news about the India variant in the Bay Area. If so, do you think this is going to affect the nature of classes this fall?
Hard to
So
predict that.
hard to predict that. The good news is that we are almost 50% vaccinated in the state of California. So we're hoping, our goal is to get up to 70% by July 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're
Country.
starting, yeah, we're starting to open up here on June 15th. The state wants to open up completely. So we're hoping to keep that positive trajectory going in terms of our community health. But of course, we're keeping an eye on everything, right, Shalini?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, you know, the county officials, as Mario mentioned, the university officials, the Stanford hospital people were all just very conscious of the fact that this could be disruptive, the India variant to the United States population. So we're keeping an eye.
Another student is
And also-
reporting
Yeah.
that they got an
Go ahead.
appointment for late August.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Since
excellent.
it was the starting date, I might not be able to fly.
I wouldn't complain about an appointment at the end of August. That's the question.
Right.
Yeah, so I would just hold on to that with everything you've got.
Then once again, there's a question about AstraZeneca not being one of the vaccines being accepted. So for those, so that Stanford will make sure that everybody is vaccinated. If you come with a vaccine that is not one of the ones that's being accepted in the US, I think they're looking into other options of what they could do to boost the immunity or give you or provide second round of shots. All those details are actually being worked on. There's a lot of work happening at Stanford University trying to make sure that students can get here in the fall, what to do when students get here in the fall. There are academic continuity groups that are looking at issues of how to make students successful and start their programs in time. There are groups looking at housing options for students who can't get here on time. There's the Dean of Students who's looking to provide support to students depending on what their needs might be. So I do want to assure you that none of this is going unnoticed. We've all been working very, very hard since we went into the pandemic closure, and all the details are being thought through. It's just that the situation has evolved in a way that nobody thought. Nobody thought that we would get here. I mean, 14 months ago, we thought that in 3 or 4 months or 6 months or then 8 months, that we would be back to some level of normalcy. But as we know that unfortunately, things have gotten in many ways worse instead of getting better. And I just want to, I know we're at the end of our time, but I do want to assure you all that all of us, all of us at Bechtel, all of us in departments, the president and the provost and all the senior leadership at Stanford is working very hard to iron out all the details, to be as transparent as possible, to provide whatever assistance we can as a university for students to get here. And we'll keep you informed as things develop and change, right? Mario, are there any other questions that we can do in this last 5 minutes that we have? And also assure people that we could offer another town hall as things develop later on this summer?
Yeah, for sure. We all got into working in international education because we care about your experience coming as a student to the United States, and these are very trying and difficult times. And we want to be able to help you out as much as we can. And so I'm sure that we'll have plenty more town halls as we approach the start of the fall quarter. There's still some concern about vaccines and getting information about vaccine guidelines and what's acceptable, what are acceptable vaccines and which ones aren't.
Yeah. So we're still waiting for that information, but I also see somebody saying, should we wait for this information before getting a vaccination?
Yeah, I also see a question from a J Scholar wondering whether they're eligible for the NIE, and yes, you are. J exchange visitors are also eligible.
And the issue of delaying a vaccination is probably not the best option at this point, considering what's happening in the country. But that really is a personal decision that you'll have to make. Speak to your family doctors, find out what they think. But if I was there and I was getting a vaccination, I would probably take it. That's only just a personal viewpoint. But you need to look around you and see what's happening and see if you want to risk delaying getting a vaccination.
And as we mentioned earlier, this town hall is being recorded. And so I see a question that came up that we talked about extensively earlier in the hour. And so you'll be able to find this recording on our homepage, bechtel.stanford.edu, and we have a link for recorded town halls. And you'll be able to find this town hall recording there.
Elsa, do you remember what Joanna said yesterday about reaching out to Vaden, because they're the ones that would have the information about the vaccinations? I know she said that we could reach out to her directly, but she also said there was another email that students could send their questions to. Do you remember what that was?
I don't, but we could certainly send that around to everybody, because I know this is not just a question that concerns Indian students, but it concerns all our incoming international students. So we'll definitely send that around when we find it.
All right. Okay, then. So thank you all for joining us today. Is there anything else we want to say as our parting words at this point, folks from Bechtel?
I continue to be inspired by our international students and the efforts and the perseverance that all of you are taking to start your education here at Stanford University. It inspires me and it inspires my work, and I just really appreciate all of you, and I hope all of you stay safe and be well.
Yeah. Stay safe, everyone.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see you in the fall, right? And if not the fall, then soon, right? Go ahead.
Oh, I think, okay. That's it for us. For now, we'll be in touch maybe in the next couple of weeks just to check in and see how things are going. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.